give it, all she wants to be able to. So we do have an additional vacancy. So that's 2 now that we've got. So if you know of anybody who you think would be a good addition, try recruiting them, have them apply through, I believe there's an application you need to submit through the county's website. Let's see, a couple of follow-on items from last month's meeting. John had inquired of Richard of whether there were any closeout projects that the manager present in the technology space, and there are none. John also asked about the Clarendon, the SIZ, the Safety and Innovation Zone project, whether there would be a final report on that. Richard reported that there's still some internal steps that need to be taken on that. I know that Holly did speak at a conference, I think last month, sort of touching on it some, but hopefully when it is ready for public briefing, hopefully we can get a briefing then. I think I had reported on Comcast had made an announcement regarding a 5G RAN launch that they're doing. Kevin reported back to me. I had a question to see if that's available here yet. It is not yet available. It's still in the field testing phase. So but there is actually, I'm not sure if everybody got the announcement from Kevin. Comcast, Xfinity's internet speeds are increasing substantially. The Internet Essentials Plus going from 110 to 120. Performance starters going from 5010 to 7510 megabits per second. So there's doubling speeds for performance tier from 110 to 210. And anyway, get the idea. There, Xfinity is upping the speeds in a big way. So Kevin, did you circulate that to all our membership by any chance, or should I?
Frank, I did not. I can certainly add everyone on this list. If you wouldn't mind sending me the list of emails, or this might be the meeting invitation. I'd simply just send it to you with the hopes that you'd.
Okay, sure. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it would be on the meeting invite. Otherwise, I can take care of circulating.
Okay, great. I'll do that.
All right. I think it's good. Good. I know that's been a concern. Let's see. And I guess as far as our attendance for today's meeting, we did have approved medical excuses for Gary and Jackie. Kevin is here today, and I guess Jonathan. Did you? Are you exercising one of your virtual meeting? I guess 3 potential.
I guess so. I have no excuse. So.
Okay. All right. So you're using one of your virtuals, right? Do we need to?
That's fine.
Does he need to send me an email on that, or it just needs to be reflected in the minutes? I think.
It needs to be reflected in the minutes.
Right.
And it's probably best because we're using transcription.
Right.
The minutes to have people say that they're using exemption or
right.
Using medical and where they're from.
Right. We do need also to show
where they are if they're not in the
right.
room. So if they
we
say
can't
loud,
hear them.
it goes into the transcript.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, we didn't hear that because too far from the mic, I guess.
I guess you had to face that. Are both mics live, right?
We're using transcription, so it would be helpful for the minutes if you would say your name, that you're either using or not using a medical exemption, and where you're attending from, so that it's captured in the transcription, because it needs to be in the minutes.
Okay, Jackie, can you do that, please?
I am attending from home, and I have submitted a standing medical request,
which has been approved by the chair. And Gary.
Hi, folks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks. Gary Thayer. attending virtually at home with a medical exemption in prep for a medical procedure tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.
And I have approved that. And Jonathan, we just need, I guess, if you can read into the minutes that you're using a virtual, one of your virtual get out of jail free cards, and where you are attending from.
Jonathan Adelstein, attending from home using one of my virtual get out of jail free cards.
Okay, very good.
Can you remind us again how the virtual quota is of the year? It's like 25% or something?
It is 25% of the total meetings, which since we are scheduled to do typically 11, I think it's 3. So it's round up. And Michael.
I am at home.
Michael Cornfield it is. Sorry.
Yes, Michael Cornfield, sorry. I do not have I'm using one of my get out of jail free cards as well. I am at home.
Okay, very good. And let the record reflect, we've got, I think we're well in excess of a quorum here. So we're doing well here with the hybrid model. After the last meeting, we did submit our legislative priorities to the county, and actually we also submitted copies to our board liaison, Takis Karantonis, and he did thank us for sharing the list of priorities. Next step is for him to bring them up and share with the board chair and the county board colleagues, as well as the legislative assistant, Ilana Kreinen, who's copying an adventure that will discuss with members of the Arlington delegation in the General Assembly prior to making a determination on whether and how they would include these in the 2022 list of legislative priorities. So he'll stay in touch with us on that process. Anything else I should, yeah, I think those were the ones I had for now. That brings us, actually I got a message from Whitney and Linda had a little delay, so they're not here. So I guess we can flip the order of our agenda. Cheryl, if you're ready to go. Okay, and I put you down as representing Arlington County Cable Administration, or are you doing this as CTC?
In this particular function, I am doing this as CTC, representing CTC, who's been hired by Arlington County to conduct the needs assessment and technical review.
All right.
And I'm here tonight just to give you a brief overview of the process that is taking place as we go through the cable TV franchise renewals for both Comcast and Verizon. And so I've just got a quick slide or two to bring up, and we can go through just high level what we're doing with the process. And I'm sure if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those as well. Let me go ahead and get the slide up here. Sorry about that. Being slow. Here we go. And sorry about that, folks. Here we are. As I said, we're doing a cable TV needs assessment, which, to give some background on that, is a process that's laid out by federal law. And one of the things and the caveats that we should say right up front, and I'm sure Richard has reported before, or Frank has reported before, that in terms of the areas in which the county does have regulation authority, that is over the video portion or the video portion of the services. We do not regulate telephone or internet services. So we're looking strictly at what involves cable TV. In doing a renewal process, which can take quite a bit of time, We have entered a window in which we're now conducting a cable TV needs assessment, which includes a random sample residential survey that is out on the street right now. It is just concluded. That was sent to a random sampling of residential areas throughout the county with the ability to get input from those, and those who have not received the survey will have the opportunity to make comment and to send emails and other comments in to the county as well. So we are not excluding anyone. We're just giving them multiple opportunities to comment. We'll also be selecting and soliciting input from the public and key stakeholders that we will meet with over the next several months. Our timeline is looking to try to conclude all of these meetings and all of these interviews with folks and to get public input by the early first quarter of next year so that we are able to then move forward. We'll present a draft report of those needs and interests relating to cable TV to the county, which will then take those forward in their discussions with the cable companies. Simultaneously, we're conducting a technical review of both the Comcast and Verizon systems, and our engineers have been in the field and have been following up on issues that they have noticed and are noting those and bringing those forward so that we can report on the status of the systems. And then just a quick overview. This is my name, my title. I am Cheryl Johnson. I'm a senior analyst with CTC Technology and Energy based in Kensington, Maryland. We've worked with the county for a number of years, and we continue to help them with looking at let me make sure, is that off screen now of the slideshow?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. It's hard to tell when you're not running the Teams meeting whether you're still sharing or not. But we have been working with Richard and the county for quite a long time in handling complaints and following up on resident concerns. So I do that on a day-to-day basis for the county as well.
Okay, and as things stand, we're, I guess, on track for holding a public hearing on November 16th. Is that still?
Yes, as far as I have heard, there's no change to that. We are anticipating that we would do a public input session via the ITAC meeting on November 16th. It may be held in a different room depending on what's available in terms of that way the public has more access and more availability so that they can either attend in person or virtually. And I believe the plan is to have it available hybrid.
Right, and I've asked Angela to try to see if she can arrange her room for us.
Okay.
So I don't know if you may want to follow up as well if you can. But anyhow, we'll let everybody know as soon as we know we've got a location. But I know in the past when we've done these, we've done them in the county boardroom. I don't know if that's available. I mean, it's back in operation now. Or?
I have not gone down to look.
Yeah.
So I'll pop down and see
what it looks like.
It had gone through a renovation just before the third floor was renovated in the common areas. So I think it's online.
Now,
but I'll double check.
Okay. All right. Well, anyhow, we'll keep does anybody have any questions for Cheryl on the process? I know that a few of us have gone through, I think Phil has gone through this, Kevin, we've gone through this before, but I'm not sure that everybody else, anybody,
I got a quick question.
Yes.
You said your engineering study is being done to address issues, identify issues, strengths and weaknesses. Is that what you're talking about? And that will be part of the franchise agreement development product used for the franchise agreement?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, there will be written reports on both what we get from input and also the survey and the key stakeholder conversations, plus then the technical. Correct.
What's been the response rate for the survey?
The survey literally just is ending now, so I have not received back all of the statistics yet, but we did receive the targeted response rate within the first 3 weeks of sending the survey out. So the response rate was very good.
Got another one. Is the engineering study with support from the carriers, service providers?
Correct. It's done in conjunction with the carriers. They're participating in the meetings that we have and answering questions and having their technicians be available to work with our technicians.
What is the board going to want to hear about from us?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that very well.
What is the county board going to want to hear about from us?
I think that the one thing they'll want is just the ability to know what you're seeing and hearing from the public, especially, and also in the world of technology, which you do make recommendations and do make suggestions to the board. If you're aware of any trends or things that you see within the industry that you feel is not being applied, we certainly would want to note that. But you know, same as what we're looking at on the technical side, what works, what isn't working so well, and what we can do to negotiate for improvement.
And it does, I guess, relate to compliance with the current franchise agreements, correct? I mean, it's
Correct.
And
I think it's real important. I think it's important to note, as I said in the beginning, that there's so much that people assume the county can regulate or the county can really oversee. And probably one of the largest calls we get in volume at the county is about internet. And that's not something that's regulated or an area in which we really have any jurisdiction. So therefore, it's not something we can do. Same thing with rates.
right.
People complain about rates quite a bit, but that is not something that we're allowed to regulate because effective competition exists within the marketplace in Arlington. It has been determined by meeting certain standards. And then thirdly, lately, the last year, we've really received quite a few maintenance outside plant complaints that have been brought forward and are being addressed still currently. So those are areas that we hear the most from the public about.
All right, and I guess, you know, if we're gonna, I mean, obviously there'll be a notice on our, I guess, on our webpage that we'll be conducting this, you know, opportunity for public comment on it. So, will there be other publicity that the county will be
We have,
trying to
we
put out?
have separate channels to go through for this traditional public engagement process.
Right.
So for this, I would ask you to look at it like your last town hall and kind of put the word out to the circles that you
Right.
communicate with, because there may or may not be overlap with where we're going on the communication to the public engagement
Right.
side versus where you are kind of active as ITAC.
Yeah.
So look at it as a town hall, publicize it that way, and it's hybrid. It does not have to be completely in person.
Right.
So we have multiple ways people can.
That people,
participate.
right, there'll be, I guess we'll have to, you know, we'll coordinate on whether we're using this platform or, you know, I think we use a slightly different platform for the.
With the webinar version.
With the web, yeah, right.
That particular.
Right, but there was the opportunity, I think, not for people to speak, but to provide questions through a chat, you know, chat function was my recollection. So I don't know if is that the likely?
Likely, yes.
That will be the platform I would use for this. All right. Does anybody else have any other questions for Cheryl?
Yes, I have my hand up.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Yes, will there be some kind of written blurb or promotion that we can circulate through newsletters of what the topic, here's the date, here's how you sign in, sign up, and here are the topics that are germane, because you've listed quite a few that aren't. So I think we need to let the public know that this is about TV and TV services, and a little bit about what you mean by that. Is it like, I don't like it because they drop these channels that I like? Is
Right.
that, what
And I
is it?
think, yeah, I think we
What's
can,
the area that they can voice opinions on?
I think Frank and I recently were talking about some points that he would read as the chair at that November 16th meeting. And I think if we make that available to all of you, that would be helpful to be able to put that out in a newsletter with points about what areas the discussion will include and really frankly can't include.
So, Frank, we have a Civic Federation has an announcement email that goes out to newsletter at Civic Association newsletter editors for events.
Right.
So if you get me a short, and it's got to be text only because they don't do anything other than text, plain text in this, then I can send it around to people and let them know the event and what's germane.
All right, okay. Well, once we've got the location, then, I can probably take what Cheryl, the script you provided me, maybe edit that. Or I'm not sure if did I have it in Word, or I think you might have been I think it was in Word, but anyway.
Yeah, it was in Word.
If not,
if you have any, you had mentioned that you wanted to add one slight adjustment to the one phrase.
right.
So happy to help you do that. And yeah, Frank, if you want to be the one to provide that to Jackie, that's fine. If you need me to, let me know.
Okay, all right, let you know.
Sure.
But I guess until we have the place, I guess, or I guess, or we could just say, check the ITAP webpage for more information.
We can sort the place pretty quickly.
Yeah, okay, all right, good. Yeah, since we have that, we'll keep that process going so we can get the word out. All right, anything more for Cheryl? Not, we'll go to, I guess, what was our agenda item back to item number 4. So,
We did it.
anyhow, we had a request by our commission to get an update from Arlington Independent Media. So today, also known as AIM, we have Whitney Kernodle, the interim CEO, and Linda Lawson, the senior director of technology. So and I don't know either of you, so if you can identify who you are.
You can guess which one is which. That would be terrible. Hi, I can start, everyone. Thank you. Apologize for the lateness, but technology happens, and we had some glitches today. We've had some classes starting, and we have all sorts of cool things happening, but we're here. We're super excited to be here. I am Whitney Kernodle. I am actually no longer the interim. I am the CEO of Arlington Independent Media as of a few weeks ago. I was brought on by our board about 11 and a half months ago. I am not a techie per se, I'm actually horrible. Linda can speak. But I am an attorney. I'm a political strategist. And I was hired. I do have a nonprofit background. I've been the executive director, acting executive director of a nonprofit that was based in a law firm in DC for a number of years. I do have a dedicated history in running and working with nonprofits, but my angle is human rights. I am a human rights commissioner currently. That's the commission that I sit on. I am the co-founder of Black Parents of Arlington. I'm also, and the current president, I'm the co-founder and steering committee member of Arlington for Justice. And so my thing is people and their rights. We call them civil rights in this country. It's all really just human rights and access and dismantling of barriers for people to be able to do the things that I believe, particularly in what many people consider the wealthiest and certainly, you know, the most lucrative country in the world. I find it problematic that so many people die because they don't have health care or suffer because of their educational ills. So I just believe that we all have certain privileges, certainly those of us who serve on commissions and get to do these things. And it's really lovely to lend my privileges and my talents and my resources and my experience to helping those who are more marginalized than me. For me, community is about sort of lifting up those who have less. So that's kind of my thing. I moved to Arlington almost 18 years ago, pregnant with my firstborn. He is 17. He is a senior at Wakefield. So we've got less than a week left until his college applications are due for early action, which is exhausting and crazy. And obviously in terms of technology is very different than when his parents were applying. He has a baby brother who is in 10th grade at HB Woodlawn. I moved to Arlington pregnant with my firstborn from the West Coast, where I'd served as the legal services coordinator for domestic violence. It was a housing facility and also services, and so I did that work. But I really researched, as many of us are lucky to do. I was able to say, well, I know that we're moving to DC based on my husband's job. Where is the best place for us? So I did my internet research back in 2024, early 2025, and it just made the most sense, especially moving pregnant, that Arlington, its schools, its parks, its resources would be really great for my family to thrive. And so we did that long ago. So both my children are native Arlingtonian. I took over at AIM. I was not really, when I was asked to apply for the position of the executive director, we've since changed it into a CEO position, and I can get to that. But I was like, no, because it seemed boring, and I don't like being bored. And it sort of seemed like a 9-to-5 kind of job in the office and working with things that I had no idea about, like video and technology and media and radio. But what I recognized, having been a member of AIM since 2017, 2018, is that really it was a really well-resourced, really great founded organization that had sort of lost its step and hadn't quite gotten into the 21st century. And so I will tell you that walking in there was like walking into 1996 in so many different ways, from my point of view. And so so when I realized that really it was the challenge of bringing something that was such a formidable organization and had so much potential, and to use my skills to not only bring it into the 21st century and beyond, but to use it as a hub for what we now know are really important aspects of a community, which is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. I have been certified by Challenging Racism, which is another nonprofit here, to facilitate in discussions. And again, with the human rights, you know, my center is in people and in belonging. And the more I read and understood about community media, it was a perfect opportunity to use the media to not only work to dismantle systemic oppression against people who've been marginalized across the world, certainly in America and specifically here in Arlington, but also to create a hub for art, media, technology, journalism, all these different various forms of communication, you know, that aren't normally talked about in the same space, but all have not only social justice tendencies and can flow so well into creating better outcomes for people in our community. But so that's what made it exciting, being able to use what I have to create a hub for technology, media, and the arts and communications, but also to lend into diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging. So I started November 1st of last year. When I started, AIM had survived the pandemic, mostly through PPP loans that were given, but there wasn't staff to take them. So we were able to, as an organization, create a pot of money. And so it was sort of like, I liken it to kind of like a rotten banana that you put in the freezer because you're like, I don't know what to do with it. The trash was just collected yesterday. And so we're just going to put it here and we're going to wait. And then that's kind of where the organization was for a few years during the pandemic. And it was able to sustain. And then when I got there, I took the rotten banana out. And now we're dealing with what we do with the refuge. Do we just throw it out? Do we recognize that maybe the earth has some value and we just don't throw everything in the same place? And how do we do it differently to, you know, to make sure that me throwing out my rotten banana doesn't make something worse for someone else unintendedly? And so that's really what we've been using the last year to do in order to create a foundation or maintain the aspects of the foundation of the organization that are not only still viable, but highly useful going forward, but then to also be really clear and authentic and even though it may be uncomfortable, really ask the hard questions about what the organization has always been, who has it served, who it hasn't served, who it should serve, and even if you're the people who are equipped to answer all those questions in the first place. So that's what I've been doing. I have had the opportunity to hire what I would call, I've created a workspace full of people whom I admire, whom I love, who are all incredibly bright, incredibly passionate about the mission and the vision of reimagining this 40-year-old organization into a place of real belonging, working side by side with the county and helping the county in terms of engagement and outreach that the county has struggled with but still wants to provide, and also partnering with local nonprofits and other community leaders. Getting less individual member centered since most of you do know about AIM, we really put a lot of emphasis in our individual members. Our membership dues is low based on the fact that it's community media, and it should be low. In fact, it should be nothing, which we're working on, because even $5 can be a barrier to access for some people. But really working to create a community center that is not just for hobbyists and not just for people who live in that area and not just for people who know about it, not just for people who are retired and so have the time and the attention to utilize the spaces, but for parents, for active duty, you know, and veterans, for people who are new to America, you know, for our young people. So what we're really trying to do is to prioritize the voices, not just that have been marginalized specifically through media, but the voices that the county really struggles with finding and getting. Like, you can be the most affluent parent, maybe the most affluent parent, but if you're a regularly affluent parent and you got 3 kids under the age of 8, you really have some issues engaging with the county. Even though it's important and you have all these things, you just don't have the time. You're working, your spouse may be working, or is a primary caregiver of children. And so you don't really have if you're a military family, again, regardless of anything else, if you're new, you've got 2 years here, you don't necessarily know where to go, how to access things. So we're really trying to broaden not just our staff, which we've done in terms of diversity in our programming, but also thinking about who may be listening or may be a viewer, and who are these potential viewers and listeners that we haven't cued into and who we don't know that we should be, because we are a very diverse population of almost 250,000 people, and that doesn't include the people who work here or the people who travel through. We just did a salute for 9/11, and one of the things that I noted is that the vast majority of people who died here in Arlington weren't from here. Many of them were on a plane coming through here. And so on a day-to-day basis, there are so many people who are in our community who may not live here. There are people who maybe were born here and raised here, but are priced out of living here. They're still Arlingtonian, and it still matters to them, regardless of whether they live somewhere else, even in the world, or whether they live here. So just really trying for me, and then I'll let Linda, who is again a godsend in so many ways, but really my job as the CEO is to have dug deep into what is the best about the foundation of the organization, to work with the county to see what ways as a county-funded nonprofit we can work with the county to actually provide real and tangible and meaningful services to all of our county members, but particularly those that the county is struggling and communicating with. And then building a staff that can do all these amazing, fantastic things that are certainly outside of my purview. So what I can then do with my dedicated staff is go out and do what we all want to do, is illuminate the brilliance of Arlington, right? So my goal and my reimagining of AIM is into a world-class, first-rate, well-recognized community media organization that becomes an attraction. Philadelphia has one to a certain extent. Brooklyn's, their brick is excellent as a model for people travel to go to some of the concerts or the film festivals or some of the events that this community media organization puts on. We're well situated in Arlington to do that, and with my staff and with others, that's really where my goal is. And so I will let Linda take it over after that.
Hey everyone. So I'm Linda Lawson, and I first wanted to tell you that I don't think I ever told you this, but I also was a human rights commissioner for about 6 years in Washington, D.C. We have to talk about this afterwards. But anyway, yeah, this is a little piece of information that just popped in my head. So I was a resident of Arlington County like 40 years ago, or not, and loved it. I'm right now a resident of the District of Columbia, but I'm a native of the area, and I feel like I have popped in and out of Northern Virginia. When this position became available, it was providential, is what I would say. I had no idea. I was a member. I had become a member of AIM too, and I'm going to just sort of back up for a moment and say my role at AIM is really kind of like the person who's a steward over all of the infrastructure. Okay, so and that's why I was hired, and that's what I do, is to make sure that our infrastructure is well, equipped, well, maintained.
Maybe for those in our audience who are not fully familiar with AIM, maybe you can just go over what
Sure.
The studio, the radio station,
absolutely.
The public access.
So we refer to ourselves as community media, and sort of the old definition would be public access. So we are a TV studio, and we have a low-powered FM radio station.
WERA.
WERA. We are Arlington.
96.7 on your dial.
We are Arlington. Right. And so I was really excited to hear about the change at AIM, not because of anything to do with anyone who was involved in AIM in the past. I was actually quite impressed by some of the things that I knew about AIM, and I had become a member, though I never really engaged with the organization. But this is my 4th community media organization now that I'm a part of AIM. I had been a member and/or staff member at DCTV, Montgomery Community Media, Fairfax Public Access. So I was very familiar with the space. It's a long story, which I will not bore you with, of how I got to become a production person, but nonetheless, that's what I am. And so when I heard about this position, it was very exciting to me, and I'm just really excited about the new possibilities for Arlington independent media, and also just the community media space in general. So I say all that to say that why I'm here is to answer your questions about what we're doing and all of the new sort of features that we're going to roll out at AIM. Because now that we are on this side of the pandemic, I'm not saying it's over, because clearly it still isn't. But we're on the side now of more access. And so we have thrown open our doors in 2022. So now we're back to in-person classes, in-person productions. And my role at AIM is to make sure all that is happening. But we do have some exciting things that are happening in that. One thing that I've understood about Arlington Independent Media is that it's had a very, very significant presence here in North Arlington. However, there's still many people in the county who don't know about AIM, and all of the low cost or free amenities. And so what's exciting is that soon we will have an outpost in the south part of the county. And I look forward to building that out and engaging with people, on the other side of Route 50. So, that's what's happening right now. And I would invite all of you to come by and see us, because we're only a few blocks away. Come by and see what we're doing, and ask questions and, share the good news.
Thanks. One of the issues that we've been aware of going back is basically the location. I know that there were some issues with your continued ability to stay at the location there on Wilson.
Yes, that was my understanding too.
Right.
So
far so good, right?
Well, I'll let Whitney speak to that.
So our new landlord is Jushi. It was a Bill Buck building.
Right.
Our new landlord, we signed the building exchange ownership the Friday after my first week, so going on a year ago. I've been working with the real estate group and their management. They love the concept of community media there. It's a cannabis company. Being affiliated with a media organization is not terrible for a cannabis company. They also understand that I happen to have very good relationships with leaders in the community, which is helpful for them. They are not Virginia or Northern Virginia or Arlington or corporation. And so I've been able to help in, for instance, I don't know whether anybody knows, the Thurgood Marshall building that is now occupied by APS cannot have cannabis being sold within, I think it's 1,000 feet of a building that has children schooling in it. So based on a lot of my relationships with APS and the county, I've been able to help sort of navigate some of those small but highly expensive types of decision making. And so they certainly see the value in having Arlington Independent Media as a tenant, and we're leaning into that. So we will stay. I think personally, one of the issues, and this is a community media issue just in general, and sometimes a nonprofit issue, but oftentimes people think of historically nonprofits or community media as sort of yeah, but I really dig this topic and I'm going to be in charge of it and I love it, and so I can make decisions. But loving something and knowing something is different than being able to run a business. And nonprofits is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's still, even though the goal of a business may not be to make money, it still needs the same exact type of money in order to run the business. And so when we talked about the CEO versus the ED, when I came on board, it was as an interim. And I actually was looking at it as more of a contractor. And what I said to the board is, you need to change the name to CEO, because after I leave, if what you're looking for is a permanent, you're going to get a different caliber of candidates if you're calling it a CEO as opposed to an executive director. They are the same exact responsibilities. It is the executive of an organization, but nonprofits have traditionally gone the ED route and for-profits have gone the CEO route. But again, what was lacking in a lot of ways and what faltered about the organization wasn't the love for community media or the expertise in the programming. It was being able to understand how to sustain a business. So you always need someone at the helm that at least understands that. You will be better able to get those type of people than someone's like, I love public access and video and it's all cool. And, you know, like I've been working for 20 years and I can do it, which is great. But what you really need at the head of something, especially something that was so vital and had so much potential as AIM, you just really need a business person. And so that's me. So that's why I worked to change the name, just based on longevity. I did take the permanent position. I apparently was the best person that I found to stay in the role.
Did Dick Cheney do that too?
Just say. I know. That's the first time I'm like, okay, maybe computer music to you. It's a little scary, but I'll take it. I'll take it. But that's really, we need to make sure that we've got the right people who have the stewardship of actually what we're doing, but that we're also keeping in mind the business aspects of the relationship with the county, with the relationship with the community, like who really the stakeholders actually are. Not what we want them to be, but what makes the right sense for the sustainability of the organization.
Good. And the South Arlington location will be where? I mean,
Well, we're not, it will be in South
public yet?
Arlington. It's not public yet.
Okay.
It hasn't been officially confirmed, but it will have bus access, it will have parking. We're working highly in conjunction with the county, with cultural affairs. Like I said, the goal is to really, when Amazon came, the county sold Amazon on the DC art scene. We have an art scene. So we could have sold Amazon on our actual art scene, but we're not branded that way. And so again, I'm trying to lean in, and I talk to Mark Schwartz and the county board members often. I speak fairly with Lydia, so I'm like, hi, nice to see you in person. Love the glasses. But we really want to engage. Like I mean, I moved to this county to raise my family. And so I use the best of myself in everything that I do. When I see AIM, kind of like my children, or like Black Parents of Arlington, or any of the things that I do, that really it's about using the best of myself to help the community in general, because I fully believe that Arlington is a place where we've got all of the resources, including the capital resources, and including the diversity, to really show ourselves as a model community. Arlington wants to be a model community. Arlington residents oftentimes pat themselves on the back for being model in ways that they are actually super crappy in. It's a little gaslighting, but we're working on that too. But that's why having ownership of media helps to be able to remind people not only of what we aspire to be, but also give some gentle guidance in where we actually are, even though that may be sometimes uncomfortable. And to just sometimes have kind of the, you know, art imitates life and life imitates art. And so that we actually can get to the point where we are a community that actually is based on equity and doesn't just say that to get the brownie points.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, so we're, here to advise the board on technology issues, right? Technology policy. What, if anything, do you see that needs to change about county policy in that area that could help you achieve the vision for AIM, or anything that needs to stay the same?
So my answer is going to be broad, because I am not a technology. I mean, I can use it. I'm 49. Like I can get on a Zoom. I'm not one of those people who can't get on Zoom, right? But I am sort of age appropriately okay with technology. I would say push the boundaries now. Like explain why you want to do things that the board. We have a pretty. I'm not going to use the word conservative because that can be loaded, but we have a board that is not used to being bold. Boldness is, and I know all of our board members. I many of them are my friends, And they all know, and Mark Schwartz knows, that I'm all like, oh, maybe you can be bold today. What's the word of the day? It's bold. We, as a community, tend to want to bring people along, and we want to wait until everybody is mostly on the same page. And so that's never going to happen when you have a diverse community. You're never going to get people on the same page. What I say is waiting for people's hearts to change is what they do in like churches and, mosques and temple, like that's not what we do. What we do is create policy based on what we believe is best for our constituents, for our residents, for the people that we serve. So if more people can say, this is what I think is best. And I know that this whole 20 to 30% of people, and a lot of them have been here for a long time, and a lot of them have a lot of money, and a lot of them have zero problems telling us exactly what they want and exactly what they don't want. And maybe we should say to them, we've heard you and we are going to do this anyway because we think it's best for everyone. I would suggest that whatever moves that you want to make that you think are equity-based, that you think are innovative, that you think are bold, I would present them and say, what are we? I mean, I've talked to Mark Schwartz and I was like, we had a new logo. I happen to be on the logo committee. And I kept saying to everyone, this is kind of a cart before the horse thing, guys. Like, what's our thing? Like, we don't want a Confederate thing because that makes people feel bad and we don't like that. So we'll take that off. But what are we? Who are we? What are our values? Like, who are we as a county? And nobody can ever answer that, which means that we don't know, which means that we have a branding issue. So the last thing that you really do is create a logo before you actually know what you are. So since we don't know what we are, I'm using my organization to tell us what we are. And what we are is we're centered in inclusion and belonging. I say to my members and my board members and my staff, until our programming and what we know about our listenership and our viewership is pretty consistent with who lives here, starting with them, we can get too hoarse here, but then we are failing. Then we are not a community organization. Our organization is older, more male, more affluent, whiter, more North Arlington, less disabled, less military service, more English speaking than our county. And that means that my organization is not serving the county. It's doing a disservice to the county if we prop ourselves and say, we are community media, when we are really only representing the most privileged aspects of our community at the expense of those who have less. So that's sort of, I hope that answers to a certain extent your question as a non-technical person. Linda's not a tech person per se, but definitely more so than I. And so I'd like for her to answer too, but I hope that's helpful.
Well, in terms of, I lost the question somewhere in there, but nonetheless.
What changes to county policy or things that should stay the same can help you accomplish?
Now, I don't, since I am not a resident and I'm becoming reacquainted with my former home, I'm not like, I don't have like the historical, I don't have the memory, the historical institutional memory of what was. But I will say that I've learned about, I think it's Connect Arlington, or like this whole fiber infrastructure that the county has. And I was delighted to hear that we are going to, figure out how to connect AIM to that resource. And that's going to be tremendously helpful because especially as we expand to other parts of the county, we're going to need that kind of bandwidth for transmission, whether it's television or radio. So we're excited about those possibilities. The other thing is that our low power FM radio station, it reaches more of Northwest than it does of Arlington County. And so anything that this body can help to facilitate where we can correct that would be great, because we would want Arlingtonians to hear WERA, first and foremost. So
you are streaming though, right?
We do stream, yes, we do.
Which I know is not, not everybody can stream in their car.
Right.
And you would have to know about us.
Right, yeah, first have to get the word out. But,
yeah.
But we were actually aware of WERA and some of the public safety aspects of it. And we know of the MOU that WERA has with the county. And I can tell you from experience, I was a telecommunications attorney. I represented a lot of low power FM stations, and it's an extremely difficult engineering issue to try to expand your coverage. I mean, and
Right.
having a transmitter site where you do right up
Right.
top here is actually fairly advantageous.
It is, it is,
Absolutely.
and we are grateful.
Absolutely.
I understand from one of our engineers that, that perhaps that there's a water tower in North Arlington.
Right.
Where we might be able to, you know, maybe.
Which ironically would be further from here to the north, but would maybe
Right.
give is higher, and maybe it'll give you more.
Well,
I
yeah,
don't know, but
because
that's
it's
something
like-
that
because
you're gonna
it's
have to
like-
get a
Yeah.
consulting engineer to do.
And that's the thing. So like whatever, and I will admit that my introduction to radio is somewhat new. So I would be interested to know like that study, where the spots are where we're like
Right.
running into like interference and like what we can do about it, because we want to make sure we at least cover the county. I mean, you know.
Right. There's that. I have another question, Jackie. You have your hand up, or is that from before?
Yes, I do.
Sorry.
Just took me a time to come off mute. Yes, very interesting description of changes happening and in store. I'm interested in more information about the categories of programming that you have now, sort of what is the balance in the various categories that you think of as your daily programming, and how are you, in those terms, how are you thinking about changing that, or are you building on what you have? Just, some very specific, a little more granular idea of, if I tune in, what am I likely to see?
And Jackie, are you talking about tuning in terms of cable/video, or are you talking about radio, or both?
TV. If I go to the AIM station on my television and tune in, what kinds of programming do you have? And kind of what are the categories of programming? How do you generally think of it? Is it, I mean, you're talking about it in terms of population, but I'm not sure how you're viewing that in terms of distribution of interest topics is kind of what I'm looking.
Well, I will say this, some of it is driven by the actual members, but some of it is quite eclectic. It will run the gamut from, first of all, we're like broadcasting in this season the candidates forum for Arlington, the Arlington Council, was it the board? The board.
Yeah.
The board and the school board. The committee of 100 did a candidates forum, and so we went and we recorded that, and we're broadcasting that. I think it was on earlier today. It's like it comes on at different times on different days, in order to inform the local community. Right. And then we have, it just runs the gamut. Everything from sketch shows to musical shows to religious programming to gardening shows.
You still have the local news,
the Arlington Weekly News.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, Arlington Weekly News is still there. But I mean, it really runs the gamut to documentary. There's a show called, well, we have some of our own shows, Aging Matters and Bookman's Corner, which is a show that's, I call it like our Charlie Rose, where she interviews very, very renowned authors on a variety of topics. But we also, we have like the sort of public affairs, but there's also things about there's entertainment. There's also a show that features a Arlington historian who talks about the history of Arlington County. So you would be surprised at the breadth of programming that we have. Eventually, what we're going to
say.
Oh, go on. Oh, I was going to say what the long game is to start to like think about block scheduling so that we can have, some of the comedy sketch shows and other things related in a certain block and, so forth, so that it's more predictable. We're doing the same thing on the low power FM side, where we're starting to like sort of put things in blocks. Like we have this sort of block that's called the Classic 3 at 3, which is classical music. Okay. And then we have in the evening, we have Drive Time Jazz. In the morning, we have a show called Happy, Joyous, and Free, which I totally recommend you listen to. It's eclectic, but the spirit of the show is around, it's what it says, happy,
If you want to be
joyous,
happy,
free.
joyous, and free.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but all different genres, like, from R&B to country to, whatever, bluegrass. And so that's what's cool about community media. It's the expression of the community.
If I can, one of the issues though that we're having, especially since we're doing technology, is that cable it's a medium that younger people are not interested in. So one of the things that I contemplated and I was talking about and I was asked to think about is, does cable even serve us anymore? That was one of the questions that was posed to me. I figured out fairly quickly, yes. The most immediate reason is it is impossible, if you're looking through the lens of equity, to not understand that there are so many people, certainly in a certain age group, that rely on cable for their information. And for us to not serve them would be a huge equity issue. So that was clear. So we're working with that. And then there's a whole pet fund issue, which is more of the business thing.
Yes, okay.
I've got a three-parter actually. You just talked about the diversity of the program, and then I heard you say that really the program meets the demographics of the county, the needs of the county due to its demographics. Is that, if I understand that correctly?
What I'm saying is cable specifically, we're going beyond at this point. So this is so we're going beyond just more traditional mechanisms of looking at media and thinking of newer ways. So we don't look at it as cable, we look at it as video, because you can also put it on AIM-TV. This is YouTubeable, right? So anything that can go on cable can also go on our AIM-TV, which is online. Anything that can go on the radio can be podcasted, and so the point is to create the largest audience possible and including as many people in our community as possible and reaching them in whatever medium is best for them.
So you have the diversity of the program you need to represent, it's just getting it to the people.
Right. So there's both the diversity of the programming and the diversity of the medium.
Okay. And the diversity of the
Platform.
platform, just the platform, the programming, and I use the word programming, accurately represents the needs of the county. You talked about all the history part of it and the skit part, and it all reflects the okay, that's good. That part's good. And that's part one of my questions. Part two is, it used to be a largely volunteer-driven organization. There's a lot of it. Is it still, and how many full-time employees are there?
We have right now 5 full-time employees. We are working out what volunteer means, because there's people who like to come and work on a set.
I'm a proud one as a kid.
Awesome.
Yeah. When it used to be the old Mason.
Yeah.
So all the majority of our productions are volunteer driven. Yeah. So it's still very much it's still very much driven by volunteer.
The school sports are done by APS or ATV?
No.
Or do you do any of the production on that?
Currently, no.
No, okay.
Currently, no. I mean, again, we are dealing with not only an organization that was in decline, and then a pandemic, and then an organization that is revamping with a fully new staff. So it's been an organization, it's been like in flux for the last 5 years for sure. So the beauty of that is we're also open to what we want to do is serve the community as best we can. And like I said, and programming can mean so many different things, which I've learned, but we want both we want as many people and in all of the ways to be able to experience whatever they want through our organization, both in terms of the platform in which they are hearing or viewing. I mean, and that's also, not everybody can hear and not everybody can see. So there's all sorts of issues in terms of working to make sure that we are not creating unintended barriers, that we're eliminating some barriers that may have been intended and may not have been, but we're also just providing as much access for everyone, from the youngest to the oldest, from the person who got here yesterday to someone who spent their whole life here, within various languages, in various ways. What we are hoping to do is, like I said, really accentuate the diversity of our community, but also in a way that makes sure that every single solitary person feels included and belong. There's a sense of belonging in how they're accessing and what they're accessing.
But one of the things I know you want to hear about is like what did I do initiatives. So I can tell you about one right away that's like launched. We have a youth journalism incubator that we're starting, where we're starting to engage high school students. And I would say we're like high school students right now in like the active like news gathering, if you will, sort of seeing the world through their eyes. Because, often, you talked about Arlington Weekly News. Well, that's a great show that's been around forever and ever. But even the folks who've been doing that, they're like, we're ready for some new blood. We're ready for a new perspective. So we're right now trying to cultivate that. So our very first, I think, meeting launched about a week ago at one of the local library branches. And so, yeah, so you should start seeing, young cub reporters out there gathering stories that maybe, people my age wouldn't recognize to be news, so there are.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that Reed said that AIM should be involved in the education. I know that at one point there's some discussion working with Arlington Career Center, which is APS.
And we're working with APS too. 25% of residents of Arlington are under the age of 18. And right now we have very little, we have no programming on our radio side that is dedicated to that.
Not yet.
That's exactly the point.
So I've been at AIM for less than 6 months. Yeah.
That's right. Actually, young people don't listen to radio usually either.
Well, if they're not being represented, they never will.
So invite us back in 6 months. Ask the same questions.
We got an open door.
Okay.
And we welcome.
Absolutely.
And we have had members of AIM, a regular AIM representative in the past. So, and we do have 2 vacancies currently, so we've got somebody.
And maybe one of
Just
the other things that we're doing, you asked about our full-time staff, but what we're doing to bridge the gap between our volunteers and our full-time staff is our part-time staff members are mostly college and high school students. And so we are teaching them the necessary technical skills
to replace me.
All of us, right?
Yeah.
Well, not me, because I'm not doing it.
Okay.
But yes, but definitely.
But really,
yes.
That's what we're doing. We're trying to mentor the next generation. The other thing that Whitney will tell you, that I'm really passionate about is workforce development. So we're trying to find ways within the county to launch a program where we can start to cultivate people who can then get, launch careers. A lot of people have launched careers through community media. Community media was a very important part of my professional development. So I want to pay it forward. So that's why I'm here.
How are we saying AIM? What is it?
Arlington Independent Media.
Okay, Arlington.
Yeah. So it's www.arlingtonmedia.org.
Tell your friends.
Yes.
Jackie, is that a new hand or an old hand? You got your hand up on Teams.
Always up.
I don't remember what it was, but I did have a follow-up. I did wanted to tell them that many of the things you're talking about are very interesting to me. I'm the chairman of the board of the Arlington Civic Federation, and we are trying to broaden and get more diverse audiences for the programming that we do
Okay.
in our regular meetings, somewhat similar to Committee of 100, but also it's broader because it's got lots of different members involved. So I will contact you offline to talk about possibilities. Like our next meeting is on potential recommendations for changes in the Arlington County governance system, like ranked choice voting and things like that.
I'm one of the Tiger members, actually, which is.
Oh, all right. I thought I recognized your name. So
Yes,
Tiger
I
is
thought I
next up.
recognized yours too, which is funny. That makes sense.
So Tiger is next up on our agenda. Maybe it's something that might be of interest to your audience.
Yes, I probably.
Some
yeah,
parts of your audience. All right. Well, we'll follow up.
All right. Any other questions for?
What's the current level of budget support from Arlington County above and beyond any of the PEG?
We are just shy of $400,000 annually. I believe many of you know, if you know AIM, we had been slated to have a 5% cut year by year, I believe starting in fiscal year 2018. I was able to flatline the budget, so our budget for this current fiscal year is the exact same as it was, which saved us about $17,000. But it was based on the fact that the county board and the county manager understands that I came in with a commitment to marginalized people. I was hired for it. I was absolutely 100% prepared to tell them to give AIM no more money unless I thought that the organization would be suitable to be able to be helpful to everyone in the county, as opposed to the organization in some ways has functioned as a membership in like a private club, but at county expense. I'm a county, my taxes, I do not want my taxes to pay for hobbyists to perform their hobbies at the expense of marginalized people in the community. So I had zero problem in being like, cut it off. But luckily, I was able to see the strength in the foundation and to be able to get the team together to be able to save it to the extent. And so now we're just at the point where we're using that foundation to just go further.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Whitney or Linda? Well, look forward to working with you in the future.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
All right, that brings us to the issue of a tech commission secretary. We've been requested to put that on our agenda. So there's a number of ways that we can do it. We can do it the way we did at my law firm. Junior person gets secretary.
You should have told her that before she started. That's not really fair. Just bring it up.
I'm just saying we don't have to do it that way, but I'm just saying that's a way to do it. We could go for volunteers.
Does anybody want the position?
And I think what the position would entail is doing the
Capturing
minutes
minutes.
and tallying our votes when we do votes and attendance too, I guess. Since now we have more detailed attendance reporting. So
I can share, I sent you the Code of Virginia that sets the requirements.
Right.
And it is quite streamlined.
yes,
Yeah.
and I mean, it does
Tremendous
require
amount of
that there be a summary of what's discussed. So I think, you know, if we could.
And they'll have recording.
And recording, which does have which does provide there's a trend, and if we can have access to the transcript, I think that'd be very helpful to a certain extent. That's what Angela's been using, and sometimes it's not too helpful, I think, which is part of the problem.
Catching up.
Yes. So, so if we have any volunteers, we're glad to make the appointment or vote on it. Otherwise, the other, and what solution that we did actually go for a period of time was everybody basically took one meeting, took turns, we rotated it around everybody. So that is another of doing, basically take one meeting's minutes and circulate them, get them approved, and that's
something we need to resolve in the next year or two, or?
I think this is something we're looking at, actually, the request has been to,
I think we need to have a solution in place by next meeting.
Oh, really? Okay, well, good luck.
So if there's no volunteers, I think we'd go for the sign up.
The sign-up approach?
The sign-up
Yes,
approach?
I think so. We may do it alphabetically.
Everybody just picks a date that works for them to be the minute taker. I think we let people think about it.
Yeah, okay.
And if we don't have any volunteers by halfway between here and next meeting, we'll send out a sign-up sheet.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And Angela's been very helpful, and she's brings us, I guess meetings up. Well, we'll go to minutes and then legislative update. Just another quick sleight of hand here on our agenda. But we do have the August minutes. September minutes are not ready because there were some technical problems with that transcript, which are being straightened out. So Angela will get those to us. But has everybody had the chance to review the August minutes? Are we ready to go ahead and adopt, or did anybody have any edits that they sent to Angela? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to adopt our August minutes, our first in-person meeting.
I move the August minutes be adopted.
And I second.
Second. All in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? Okay, carries unanimously.
John Burke for the motion and Phil for the second.
All right. You got that?
The other thing on the transcript is that since Richard logged in, all of our comments say Richard.
Right.
Richard.
I have a lot to say.
You do? I was going to say you do. Yeah.
And I think we should also thank Angela for doing an excellent job.
She did. Yes.
Thank you.
I thank her every chance I get.
In fact, that's part of this going to be a big
Yes.
downturn
Yeah.
in meeting quality.
And she still helps run our meetings on the other side there, and it's helping us with our website. So anyway, that brings us to the legislative update. Me. Okay, let's see. The Senate has passed legislation, I think that's the U.S. Senate, directing the Small Business Administration, the SBA, to designate a broadband and emerging technology coordinator to identify best practices in broadband and emerging IT. The bill also requires SBA to report on the impact of broadband and emerging IT deployment on small business, and to require small business development centers to help small businesses access broadband and emerging IT. Verizon's new Verizon Forward plan will provide free 5G home and LTE home internet services to households that qualify for the FCC's Affordable Connectivity Program, ACP. 5G fixed wireless access FWA home service typically provides download speeds of 300 megabits per second. 4G LTE offerings, where they're available, generally in the 25 to 50 megabit per second range. Next item. President Biden issued an executive order giving Europeans new rights to challenge U.S. government surveillance practices. The EU-U.S. data privacy framework should provide a durable and reliable legal foundation and certainty for transatlantic data flows and to create greater economic opportunities on both sides of the Atlantic, according to Commerce Secretary Raimondo. The Biden administration is preparing to propose cybersecurity rules governing communications, healthcare, and water supplies. A recent survey study determined that 1/3 of non-subscribers to pay, talking about cable, 1/3 of current non-subscribers to pay TV and cable bundles have never subscribed. So I think that's that younger demographic you were talking about, or largely that survey. So they've never had a cable package. And the consumer habit of getting packages of TV channels from cable and phone companies is fading away. Also, the report, we've seen basically almost a flip-flop. 90% of broadband homes now have connected TVs or smart TVs. So they're getting their TV by streaming. And we're down to pay TV homes went from in the 90% framework down to now it's 66%. So only about 2/3 of people have pay TV, satellite, or cable packages. So it's a big flip. And that's a big impact on that. To a certain extent, I guess Virginia still gets telecommunications tax on the broadband, but the extent they get it from cable, which then comes back to us, is being eroded to a certain extent, and that's where some of that PEG money comes from. So it's a development we continue to monitor. Not that we can do much about it. But,
certainly not tonight.
Not tonight. Our friends at Verizon, they've now surpassed 1 million subscribers, both home and business, combined to its fixed wireless access offering. So 5G, FWA, all the way.
Somebody needs to provide the backhaul, Frank.
That's right. That's fine. Arlington County's got the fiber. We got dark fiber. We're willing to talk about Verizon and Comcast on that. All right, let's see. That brings us to the DTS update. Are you going to stick in with it, or you want?
Well, I'll just say, as far as what I talked about before, so the new strategy, the new digital strategy, is almost ready for release.
Okay, good.
So once that's available, I'll make sure it's available.
Okay, I think we'll look at it with great interest. And we did have John and I had a meeting with Norrin and Richard, and sort of talked out, where we're coming from, and they told us where you're coming from. So,
You had submitted 2 questions.
Yes, which
one about closeout monies associated with technology projects.
Right.
And the answer was there are none this year. The second question was for an update on the Safety and Innovation Zone in Clarendon. There are a couple of internal steps to complete, and once that's done, we will be on your agenda to update you.
Right. Okay, I guess one minute. We were going to get in basically a briefing on the RFP for the broadband digital equity study. That was, I guess, postponed. I don't know if we're ready. I know that the surveys, obviously out there, and I think the report is it likely to be completed before year end?
I do not believe so.
Not until
my last conversation with CPHD, who's doing that work, it was also a Q1 kind of target.
Yeah.
It's the same as the report I'm working on.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm not hearing this report, and I know I've just missed 2 things I wanted to hear. One about the update on Clarendon and the other on the update on broadband. And all I know is that's the topic, but I'm not hearing the answer.
So can you hear me if I speak into the microphone here?
Can you give him a mic or something?
Okay.
What if I aim myself at this microphone?
That's better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I won't look at anybody. I'm going to stare at the ceiling for a minute. So on the Safety and Innovation Zone, there are a couple of internal steps that have to be completed before we start doing public briefings. And as soon as that's complete, Holly will come and be on the agenda here.
Do you have a time frame?
I do not yet. And then for the broadband RFP, there were delays. It's looking to be a first quarter of next year report delivery. And a similar thing, once we've passed all the internal hurdles, then it comes onto the agenda here for a briefing.
Thank you.
So we won't get to the briefing on it until the report is created, right? So we're probably looking first quarter then, most likely.
I had one. Before the meeting, I was talking to Richard about the CBRS study, and if they could provide any additional information besides, the anecdotal thing you mentioned, that'd be great. Okay. I hope that's okay.
Right. Yeah. And I know that run into some problems with DoD on that.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by that.
Right. And I know that. Yeah.
A follow-up? Does
Yes.
that mean that the Clarendon pilot is still operational, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Lauren, Richard? Okay, that brings us to the good of the order, which is the Rob Billingsley Memorial Good of the Order item. Rob was the cable administrator who was our staff liaison for many years. So read good orders. Anybody else have any business here to bring up? No? And the order is good. So we'll go to, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We won't take any nays. We are adjourned. We will see you in November 16th.
Thank you,
Place
Cheryl.
to be determined. Thank you.
See you soon.
All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you for joining. Wow, even before.